Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all saying hi in the chat. Got a steady stream of the chat scrolling on my screen, which looks very nice. So if you've just arrived, please say hello and tell us where you're joining from. Tell us how the weather is. We do like to talk about the weather here. I think not in a superficial way, actually in just the way that we like to share where we are and what's happening right now in our particular context. So a very warm welcome to Ayala as well, our guiding teacher this week. This is the first time that Ayala is teaching with us, so I think so far it's been a good experience and a very warm welcome from the Sangha. So we're exploring the topic this week of living in sacredness. Much to reflect on. Our session will run with a short introduction by Ayala, a little bit of teaching, a little entryway into the Dharma, and then we'll have a nice 30 minutes of guided practice where we all create the space together, even though we're virtually connected and not in a Dharma hall. We create the field to practice together and we support each other in our practice. It's a beautiful thing. We have it every day this week. And then we have some time for questions, answers, reflections, inquiries. A very precious time with our Dharma teachers who are here to dialogue with us. So if you would like to share something or you have a question, I can guarantee you if you have a question, probably someone else in the Sangha has a question or someone else the same question, or when they're watching the recording later on. So by asking a question, you are offering a service to the Sangha. We've got some questions from yesterday, which we will, Ayala will start with, and then there'll be time for anyone else who's got anything to add. To ask a question, you can use the little icon. It's a raise the hand icon. Raise your hand and you can come on screen, or you can type your question in the chat. Just type at the top in caps, start of your question, just write the word question so we can differentiate it from the rest of the chat. And this whole session, this whole week, the whole of Sangha Live basically is run on the Buddhist principle of dana, or mutual generosity. So we show up, we create the space, we offer the teachings, you show up, you offer your presence. Without your presence, we don't have a Sangha, we can't really have the space for teachings. It's not like this is just a direct live stream, we actually really create the field together. And part of making all that work is also financial contributions. So if you feel moved to give today, if you are able to give, please do make a financial contribution, and that will be supporting Sangha Live, our whole team, the platform, all this technology that we have to keep running, and also supporting Ayala, who offers all of her teachings on dana basis. So to do that, sangha.live/donate, and I will put the link in the chat. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy your practice.
Good morning. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, Faith, for your lovely introduction again. And I'm so touched by holding this space. I really appreciate being invited, and really enjoyed yesterday what you described, Faith, as this very visceral sense of all of you, despite being here apparently connected only by screens, and yet because perhaps we're intentionally creating a field, that field is very palpable. So if you like, as we did yesterday, you could perhaps begin just sensing into the embodied reality of that field as well. It's reminding yourself and connecting in with the truth of each and every one of us seated in this moment wherever we are in the world. And then yet showing up in the shared awakening heart and mind, and the shared aspiration to be awake to life. Showing up also in our unique expressions. We are all involved in a unique flavor of our human story, our human drama, and yet so much of that too is shared. So just feeling each other. There's so much appreciation for what we can create together. And so as we continue on this exploration of living in sacredness, I unpacked a little bit what I mean by those terms yesterday. Sacredness as an expression, as a felt, embodied expression of the fundamental truth of reality as an ever-changing relational field. An ever-changing relational field. And in its changing nature and in its relational nature makes it both precious and significant. What we do, how we show up, how we experience this moment matters. And so, whereas yesterday I hope to share some sense of the way in which we can experience and enliven this body to be a vessel, if you like, a container for sacredness, to feel into and support the way in which this body can be at ease and grounded, awake, receptive, spacious. Today we'll be exploring the breath. And as many of you will already have experienced, the breath and breathing is the most commonly shared anchor for meditation. It's where we spend most of our time, where we place most of our attention. And a reason that's often shared for that is that it's always available and that it's fairly, it's not overly stimulating. And so it doesn't feed that part of our craving for extra stimulation, for intensity. And so we learn how to be with something that's always present, always changing, and yet often somewhat boring. And so those reasons that some of the reasons I heard when I began to practice are utterly valid. And the breath is sacred. And so as we explore today, I hope that you'll get a sense of the way breathing is a doorway into so many parts of our experience. One of the ways on a most fundamental level that this art, this, I don't even want to call it an act of breathing, this phenomena, this mystery of breathing is sacred in the way that it is itself fundamentally relational and fundamentally changing. So there is no such thing as the breath. There is an ongoing exchange of receiving and giving back, an ongoing flow of experience with the universe. the act of breathing is something that maybe we'll explore a little bit together right now, so that you can begin to see that we don't even take a breath, we receive the breath. And when I say the breath, this air that we receive is itself the out breath of countless trees, countless plants, the out breath of the ocean, the out breath of mountains, the out breath of countless creatures, beings, humans. It's something this whole earth has co-created and is continuing to co-create with every breath. So when I say we receive the breath, perhaps we can begin there to understand what that means. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the anatomy of breathing, the main breathing muscle is the diaphragm, which is this dome-shaped muscle that moves between the ribs, the front, back, and side ribs. And when it's relaxed, it's in a dome shape. When we breathe in, breathing in is the active portion for the diaphragm, at least. It's passive in other parts of the body. But the diaphragm moves down and widens, which is why the belly inflates when we allow it to, because the diaphragm is pushing down onto the abdominal organs. And so when the diaphragm moves down and widens, and when we want to breathe in more deeply, we also engage and relax the muscles between the ribs, so we create more space in the rib cage as well. And all those muscles together literally create more space inside the lungs. We create a vacuum into which air is drawn. We don't pull the air in, we create the space to receive the breath. And so even while I continue to speak now, see if you can sense into this mystery, this extraordinary expression of creating space inside our body to receive the breath. When we breathe out, we relax the diaphragm. We relax to give back the physiologically, it's what our body doesn't need. Poetically, we're giving back what is needed elsewhere. We're participating in this ongoing flow and exchange of creation. And another level that the breathing exists in this relational flow is that everything we experience influences and impacts our breathing. When we are, whatever thinking, whatever emotional experience, whatever physical engagement directly impacts our breathing. And at the same time, how we breathe influences how our body, heart, and mind experience themselves, how we feel. So the breathing just in our own organism isn't separate from anything else. It is a relational field of giving and receiving. In a very direct way, the breathing massages all of our organs, particularly when we allow this full diaphragmatic breathing. Our abdominal organs, our kidneys, our liver, our reproduction organs, our lungs, our heart, even our brain is constantly being slightly squeezed and then relaxed, massaged, stimulated, woken up. Again, drawn into the pulse of life. So, rather than speaking more about the many ways that we can feel the breathing alive in us, let's move into a practice where I'll guide you to hopefully experience that directly. But first, since we, as I just described, our breathing is not something that just happens, either to us or without our participation, there's a relationship between how we hold our body and how we breathe, how we feel our body and how we breathe. If you like, just take a few stretches in any way you want. You might want to stretch the arms up and feel the sides of the body, feel the length of the spine. You might want to hug yourself and drop the chin and feel the back of the body really wide. You might want to take your arms behind you as well. Either clasp the hands together behind you or hold onto a chair or a cushion behind you. Feel the front of the body full and open. And perhaps side bending, whether a hand is on the side ribs or extending over. Yawning is amazing. I'm so much encouragement to yawn. So anytime a yawn is here for you, let that come. Opening the mouth wide. And just moving in any way. It might be just something more fluid like this. And be guided by the desire to yawn if it's there. It really teaches us where the diaphragm is stuck and tight. And so just take your own time with this. Closing your eyes if they're open. Take your own time coming from movement to stillness. So if it feels right for you to stay with some movement as you feel your breathing, stay with that for however long feels good. You could take a slow, soft inhale and exhale with a sigh. You could continue to yawn or even sound out your breath. I often find as I begin to sit that places of tension start to show themselves to me. And so our breathing and any movement, or it might be that you're in stillness, but the movement, the stillness, the breathing themselves are in conversation with each other. Finding ways, as we did yesterday, to bring ourselves into a place of greater ease. Into a place that feels more grounded. Here, grounded in the body, and the body also grounded on this precious sacred earth. Relaxed, grounded, and also awake, feeling the brightness of the inhalation, the receptivity and openness, and the sense of spaciousness, the space in which and through which our breathing moves. And so begin now to simply feel the sensations of breathing where you most easily feel them. And then, so that we're all collectively in this field, taking our attention to the same place, let's all take our attention first to the sensation of breathing at the nostrils. And as you feel the sensation of the in-breath and the out-breath, relax your mouth. Release the hinge of the jaw. Feel all of the muscles close to the sensation that you're feeling at the nostrils. Very soft. So that there's almost a sense that you can soften and relax the nostrils themselves. Make them more receptive and sensitive. And like a lover meeting the beloved, receiving the breath at this gateway of the nostrils. If you're unable to breathe through your nose, then instead you'll be feeling the breathing in the mouth or the throat. Receiving and giving back. And then just extend or expand your attention to include any sensations that you feel as this gift of the in-breath moves deeper into the body. Some of you perhaps might feel a touch in the back of the throat. See if you can feel any sensations in the lungs or the chest itself, the expansion there and the relaxation. And once again, notice what you can let go of. If there are any muscles that you can relax. Around the shoulders. Continuing to relax in the jaw and behind the eyes. Receiving the inhalation as you either feel or even visualize that expansion of the chest, the rib cage, the lungs. As you breathe in, relaxation as you breathe out. Inviting your attention to continue to travel deeper into your body to where this diaphragm is. This extraordinary hammock of muscles below the lungs, above the liver, the stomach. Some of you might feel the diaphragm, others of you might be able to visualize instead its movement. As you breathe in, it moves down. When we breathe in more deeply, it also widens. If you can't access any movement in this part of your body, if you notice that your belly is held very tight when you breathe, then I invite you with your next exhalation, and you can all try this if you want, just add a little more to the end of your exhalation by drawing your lower belly in slightly. So you lengthen the exhalation a little. And when you breathe in, relax your belly completely. And you can repeat that as much or as little as you like, a slightly extended, lengthened out breath, to help you feel how the lower belly muscles slightly softly engage, to help draw the abdominal organs back towards the spine when we breathe out. But then they completely relax when we breathe in, to allow the diaphragm to move down. The abdominal organs are gently drawn back to support the diaphragm as it relaxes back into its dome shape. And if this is just bringing confusion to the mind, then let it go, let it go. Always, at any point, if you find your mind is engaging in a way that is unhelpful, come back to where the breathing can be received in a most simple way. But if you're finding you can feel this movement in the belly, then rest here for a while. Continuing to relax anywhere else in your body that doesn't need to engage right now, particularly the mouth and the tongue. For those of you who are feeling a soft expansion in the belly as you breathe in, gentle engagement of the lower belly as you breathe out. As you stay with these sensations, also recognize the truth of, and perhaps feel the sensations of, your abdominal organs being massaged right now. Such a gift. The lungs too, of course, massaged with each expansion and relaxation. And the lungs in turn massage the heart. As if each organ is being touched by the hands of love with so much care, tended to with so much gratitude. Even the brain is gently massaged. As we breathe in, it increases the pressure in the brain, around the brain. And that gentle squeezing is released and relaxed as we breathe out. Receive the breath. Receive its gift. And offer your out breath back. Letting your attention once again rest wherever you most easily feel, perceive the breathing. And even as you experience and feel your breathing as it moves and touches your body, know that you're participating in a sacred mystery. It is our out breath that physiologically triggers the response to breathe in. And so we could also say that it is in giving that we prepare ourselves to receive. We breathe with the air. And as we dance with this flow of reciprocity and exchange, you might notice the soft, slight pauses at the end of the exhale, the top of the inhale. Notice the felt sense of those pauses. In the pause at the end of the exhalation, we learn trust. In the fullness of emptiness, we learn to surrender and open ourselves to receive. Having emptied ourselves into a space of not knowing, we pause, we trust, and we receive. In the fullness at the top of the inhale, we learn to surrender into allowing. And so with each cycle of breathing, we're letting go, trusting, letting in, and allowing. receiving the gift of countless beings, and giving our own gift back to the great mystery of all that is. And as we prepare now to bring this meditation to a close, bring your attention back to the field of each and every one of us here. Over 100 of us live, more later beyond time, joining this field from wherever we are, and yet each of us receiving the same gift and giving our unique expression back, breathing the same air. The particulates, of course, will be different, but breathing from the same one breath, the same atmosphere, sharing in the same dance. Right now, all together. So thank you all for your presence. So there's time now for any questions you might have, any sharings. And as Faith said, I'll begin today with a couple of questions that we weren't able to get to yesterday. One is from Marina. These are all really beautiful questions, so thank you. Marina asked, how do we stay spacious and in the body when daily activity requires mental focus, pace, concentration, and problem solving? So it can be easier to understand perhaps if we relate that question to a physical activity that we are very comfortable with. And so the short answer is practice, with practice, which is by coming more and more familiarized with this space of presence and these qualities in the body of, as we were exploring yesterday and touched on at the beginning of the meditation today, these qualities of ease and groundedness and awakefulness and openness and spaciousness. The more these become our default place, then the more fluidly we can remain in that presence, even when we are engaging and working any other part of our body, heart, or mind. So you can imagine being a dancer, perhaps, or swimming or hiking, where it's possible to very clearly and in a focused way engage certain muscles whilst maintaining relaxation in other parts of our system. And it's something that for myself I so appreciate from my yoga practice, is that very direct learning that I can be simultaneously engaged and relaxed. It's the Stiram Sukham in the Yoga Sutras, the steady and with sweetness, with ease. And so the same applies. It's different, of course, but it's possible with practice to maintain the body in a state of ease, even while the mind is very focused, even while the mind is very much at the forefront and engaged. One of the challenges is that we're so weighted towards doing that for the absolute majority of our time. And when the mind, as I said yesterday, is focused, there is a reflection in the body. There's a engagement and contraction that comes in certain places in our face, for example, with studying, with thinking. So practice, to balance that with some practice, with physical movement, to balance that with our meditation practice, and to check in, to place reminders around, to periodically in your day come back into the out breath. What can I let go of? What can I soften? Where can I bring more aliveness, some spaciousness, some openness? Where am I unnecessarily moving into contraction and collapse, in other words? So another question from yesterday, and feel free in the meantime to reflect on and write, in case we have time for it, any questions in the chat as well from today. Another question from yesterday was from Jane. She said, what place do you find ritual plays in appreciating the sacred? Another beautiful question. So, for a long time in my life, I struggled with ritual, and I understand now because for me at that time, ritual was something imposed, more dogmatic, if you like. So for ritual to be ritual is intended to be a doorway to the sacred. In fact, when ritual is truly embodied, it's inseparable from sacredness. It's the sacred manifest, if you like. So when ritual is imbued with meaning, it becomes an expression, a doorway or an expression of the sacred. And so from that point of view, we could say all our practices are a form of ritual when they are when they're authentic to us. Meditation practice is a ritual, yoga practice is a ritual, ringing the bell is a ritual, and bringing our hands together in greeting is a ritual. There are so many expressions that are either hollow, if we just do this because we see others do it, or imbued with meaning. The namaste that this represents is an expression of the sacredness within me sees and bows to the sacredness within you. So the depth and the fullness of ritual, and the same with chanting, the same with any ritual from traditions, bring forward a devotional aspect. And so for me, they're becoming more and more central and at the same time more and more personal. I'm finding that what is so important to me, at least, is to find a ritual that wakes up some sense of the great mystery and my participation within it. My hope is that some aspects of the breathing meditation we did today was a devotional ritual of consecration of the breath. So I hope that answers, to some way, your question. And there are two other questions that point to a very similar place, so I'll read them together. One was from Britta. To embrace everything as sacred, how to meet all kinds of contractedness in the world and our surroundings with that kind of openness. And another different but similar from Laura. How can one incorporate certain leaders who bring destruction into a notion of sacredness? Again, such good questions. Thank you. So what they both point to, there's several aspects here. And one, when we speak of the contractedness in the world or in our surroundings, when we speak of, in other words, the contractedness, the collapse, the forgetfulness that we come into contact with in our own daily lives, what we are practicing with always, the only place we can practice with is our own experience. So what we meet is what comes up in our own experience in response to the contractedness, to the forgetfulness, to the violation at times that we experience around us. We have to meet that first and meet it with this atmosphere of, first of all, safety. So coming into connection, finding the support we need that allows us to soften into that open space you describe, to meet our responses first with an atmosphere of sacredness, so that our response in the world can come from the reverence, the love that this quality of sacredness allows. And the really important thing to remember, which points more to your question, Laura, is that when the suggestion that everything is sacred doesn't imply that all actions are sacred, because just as we have as humans the extraordinary capacity to create the most beautiful expressions of love, of sacredness, when we are in alignment, in remembrance. To the equal extent, we have the most extraordinary capacity for violence, for violation, when we are in forgetfulness, when we are in the trance of separation. Those actions of violation love can respond absolutely fiercely. Appropriate response is extremely flexible. It's not always soft. It's often powerful, fierce, boundaried. But it always responds with the deepest intention to be of greatest benefit. And the only way we can access the authenticity of that intention, rather than it just remaining conceptual, is once again to first of all meet our own grief, our own rage, intimately, in a way that honors it, that feels it, that's willing to really listen and feel to its physical embodied presence in us. And trust that when we meet what we're feeling without drowning in the narratives around it, releasing the narratives and meeting the feeling directly in the way that we were meeting our breathing, in sacredness, that appropriate response arises. And each of us has our own appropriate response to any moment. Some of us, our nature might be more active and political. Others, it's in the way that we take care of our neighbor. It's in the way that we show up and smile to somebody we pass in the street. So it's trusting the collective field of appropriate response that arises from our willingness to meet the truth of how the violation in the world or in others around us, and at times in ourselves, touches us. And one last point I'd like to make around that is what I have found and what I'm continuing to find is that my capacity to forgive arises from my capacity to forgive myself. My capacity to empathize arises from my capacity to really meet my own regret again and again, to meet myself where I recognize that I wouldn't do that now, and to be able to say, if I'd known better, I'd have done better, and how grateful I am to be willing to learn and grow and to make amends, to do what needs to be done in this moment, and to have that humility of self-forgiveness, the recognition of the times that we also act, not, I hope, with the violence that we see in some places of the world, but we also act from places of forgetfulness at times, in our own small or sometimes large ways. And to find both forgiveness and the absolute commitment to show up from a place of sacredness. So I realize now that I have filled the time with questions from yesterday. I'm not sure if there were questions from today, but if there are, then I will answer them tomorrow. And as we close now, I would just like to bring us together for a moment. Maybe we can close our eyes again, and feeling our Sangha, our beautiful community here, feeling the sacredness of this breathing mystery, this breathing body, our own breathing body, but then this breathing body of the earth. And to offer the gift of our own out-breath back to all beings everywhere, in all directions, in all realms. Offer the gift of our practice back to all beings everywhere, in all dimensions, in all realms. As we together and separately the suffering and waking up, remembering the sacredness that we are already dancing inextricably within. Thank you. I hope you have a beautiful day in breathing and in presence.